we are about the verb phrase. Obviously, the head of a verb phrase is the verb, right? But there are certain elements which we find before the head word, right? So let's look in detail what type of words these are. For example, if we take this passage, the tramp read the diary, he laughed, he turned a page, etc., from beginning till end, we can see that we can put any adjunct that belongs to past. We can put the tramp read the diary yesterday, last week, right? We can put any adverb which fits into this sentence, the sequence of this sentence, and obviously the tenses. But we cannot put the tramp read the diary tomorrow or today. That's not possible. How can we do that? To change the time to present, we'll have to add or alter the verb forms into present. For example, the tramp reads. Now we can say the tramp reads the diary today. He laughs now. He laughs at the moment. He turns a page, right? And we can also say he'll turn the page tomorrow. He reads it and he laughs again. So by changing the verb from past to present, we can put these adverbs, these adjuncts with these sentences. So if we change the time reference of the text from past to present, we find that every time it is the form of the first element in the verb which is affected. For example, read changes into read, and if there is reading, was reading, it is was that changes, not reading. It is the first element which is before the head word. Laugh becomes laughs, and was unfolding, for example, becomes is folding. Folding remains folding, but the first element changes its tense. The form of the verb is altered from past to present tense this way. If a VP is marked for tense, it is said to be finite. We know that the VP is finite. It refers to a specific, whether it's read or whether it's read or was unfolding or is unfolding. These are finite verbs because they refer to a specific time. Non-finite verbs are those which exhibit no contrast between past and present. For example, we use infinitive to work, to read, reading, read, etc. Alone, they do not refer to any particular time. We can represent the relationship between the verb and its tense marking by the following notation. So we can say that our VP, then tense, and then the V, the verb. And these dot refers to any optional element that can come in a verb phrase. If we were to rewrite the text so as to change its time reference to the future, we would get sentence like the following. The tramp will read the diary, he will turn the page. So we will change the first element of the verb phrase. Apart from will, one might also use may, might, can, could, shall, should. So we can use modal auxiliaries, right? So in all these cases, what we do is add a word in front of the verb phrase. Obviously, instead of will, we may change may or might, etc., etc. These pre-verbal elements are so-called modal auxiliaries or modals. They must be added in front of the verb after the tense element. A closer look at the modal suggests that to some extent they are paired. We know that will, would, may, might, shall, should. Though there are times when we use them to refer to same tense. For example, we may refer to could I speak to Mr. John, and here could is referred to a future event. But generally, when we are using them in a sequence, we know that will would be used for the past tense of will. For example, he said he would come, not he will come, whereas he says that he will come. So this pairing is based on tense contrast. Will is present and would is past, right? Let's compare. The tramp says that he'll read the diary, but if we change it into the past, the tramp said that he would read the diary. So these are three. There are three more types of preverbal element that comes before the verb. For example, perfect, progressive, and passive. Perfect mean when we make a verb into perfect tense and show the completion. It can be present perfect or past perfect. We know that to make a present perfect, we use any form of have with the past participle form of the verb, and in the past we use had with the past participle form of the word. Similarly, progressive tense, that shows that the action is in progress. That means that present continuous and past continuous. So is folding or was folding. And similarly, passive. Passive, for example, he writes a letter and a letter is written. What we do is the auxiliary is added to it and the verb is put it into the third form or past participle. She had given him no chocolate. So you can say that it's past perfect. Had refers to the perfective tense, and we have the past participle form of the verb. So the Egyptian was clowning. We have a past progressive tense. The young girl was offering chocolate. Again, past continuous tense, right? And she had given him chocolate. So it is past perfect. This shows the perfective aspect of the verb. So these declarative sentences, these 77, 8 and 9 are three declarative statement sentence. And they are also yes-no sentence. We can make them into yes-no questions, right? Was the Egyptian clowning? Was the young girl offering chocolate for the second time? And had she given him chocolate? What we have done is to make them yes-no question. We have inversed the order of the auxiliary from its before the verb to the first position or initial position of the sentence. So in auxiliary inversion, it is the auxiliary that takes place from its usual position to the initial position. If we look at these sentences, the new Prime Minister of Belgium, it's a noun phrase, and then we have is making a statement in the United Nations. Tomorrow we have a verb phrase, is making, and then a statement, right? So if we make it an interrogative sentence, we will pick the auxiliary from the initial position of the verb phrase and bring it to the initial position of the sentence to as is the new Prime Minister of Belgium making a statement. However, we cannot put it within the noun phrase unit as the new Prime Minister and then break it into is and again have Belgium, etc. Whenever we make yes-no question, we need auxiliary for this inversion position. For example, the tramp admires the girl and he laughed. In these two sentences, we do not have any auxiliary. They are yes-no question. What we do is we bring do, does, and did, right? So we can have a question like this. The tramp admires the girl. So we bring does the tramp admire the girl? So we bring do to the initial position and the S of the admires goes with it and make it does. However, it's not possible that we put the verb admires the tramp, the girl, right? We cannot do this, that we can shift it to the initial position, right? So he laughed can be made, did he laugh? Similarly, the Egyptian was not or wasn't clowning. The tramp doesn't admire the girl. The tramp admires not the girl. That's not possible. The Egyptian was clowning, wasn't he? So we have a tag question. The tramp admires the girl, doesn't he? It is not possible that we make a tag like this. The tramp admires the girl, admiresn't he? This is not possible. However, it is not only the auxiliary have or be that are involved in inversion, negation and tag question, but also the lexical verb have and have. Lexical verb have and have means that when have and be are working as main verb. For example, her voice was soft. So we know that was is the lexical verb, it's not the auxiliary verb. and to make it an interrogative, inversion similarly takes place. Was her voice soft? Her voice wasn't soft, and her voice was soft, wasn't it? Right? So these lexical verbs behave like auxiliaries here. This is the case of structural indeterminacy or reanalysis. So this is chart that tells us that what is the expansion of a VP we can have. For example, we can look at this, that if we look at the categories, we can have tense, modal, perfective, progressive and passive, right? And they are actually specifier to the verb which is had. For example, laughed, right? It doesn't have any specifier, but was interesting, it doesn't have any specifier, but must have been reading the diary with great interest. Reading has a specifier, must have, which is auxiliary. May have told the girl, so may have our specifier, and would have called. So we can have a head word, laughed, was, reading, told, called, and these are the specifier which can be either show tense or modal, auxiliary or perfective, have had or progressive, was, were, etc. Or again passive, was, were, and they can be complement of the verb, can be an adjective phrase, a noun phrase, it can be a sentence, it can be a prepositional phrase, and the dot shows it can be some adjunct, right? And adjunct, similarly, it can be adverb, can be again, like again is an adverb with great interest, it's again adverb. So these are all adjuncts. So it can be a noun phrase, a sentence, a prepositional phrase, or an adverb phrase. So these lexical verbs behave like auxiliary verbs, have and be, right? So because we do not have any auxiliary verb, so they are brought to the initial position. The inversion take place with them, right? And we call it the case of structural indeterminacy or reanalysis. We reanalyze these things. So this is the case of verb phrase or elements before the verb, and how do we deal with these elements.